Circumcision is a hard thing to talk about because it involves the sex organs. Circumcision, when you look at the psychosexual components of it, that's a whole nother issue about controlling sexuality, somehow dampening sensitivity of the penis as a way to control sexuality. I began to research it, began to see how it started in this country. It was not a part of the culture until the late 1800s, and it was started as a cure for masturbation, plain and simple, or to punish kids for masturbating, or as a cure. And it grew from there. And once it got started and established, there was always a new reason that came up. As soon as one was debunked, there was another reason. Well, if we had a way to measure the difference between the circumcised and the uncircumcised penis or intact penis, and we found out what we thought was true, that indeed the prepuce or foreskin is a sensitive organ, and that maybe that would help give people who are looking for objective reasons to leave their sons intact or uncircumcised. We felt that for people that wanted to look at the issue, perhaps some objective facts, if indeed we could find it, would be useful. If you're going to do science, you need to, as much as you can, set up a study that may indeed prove you wrong. You must be as objective as possible, be willing to examine the evidence. So we set up a study for fine touch, for sensitivity to a very light touch. There were instruments that had been used in neurology to measure touch sensitivity. These filaments would, when touched, if you pressed until the filament started to bend, that was at the point of that pressure that it took to bend that. And so we used these filaments, starting with a lighter one and building up to where the person could first feel touch. That was basically how we did it. We actually had 19 different pressure points that we in different areas of the penis that we tested. Except in the circumcised penis there were 6 less, because we didn't test any areas of the foreskin. Obviously there wasn't any. And so that was basically how the study was set up. With someone would record each area and write it down, and so there were 3 people: the nurse assisting, handing the instrument, the doctor doing the actual testing, and then someone recording the results. And if there was any question, we recalibrated and did it again. And we did some tests to double blind, what you would call, to see if we were getting the same results each time. And found actually we didn't get exactly the same result, but the same proportionality of sensitivity was the same each time we did it. The glands, or the head of the penis, was more sensitive to light touch in the person that had not been circumcised than in the one that had. That made perfect sense, because the non-circumcised penis is covered most of the time and is in a relatively moist environment, just like the inside of your mouth is more sensitive than the outside. The inside of the mouth is more sensitive than the outside of the lip. And you can measure that. So that wasn't really very surprising. The really interesting thing, that when you organize the statistics, and it varied a great deal, I will say, because each person differs from another in terms of the sensitivity. But when you analyze the data, and we had statisticians analyzing the data for us, that the most sensitive areas of the penis were in the prepuce, or the foreskin. That the most sensitive areas of the uncircumcised penis were more sensitive than the most sensitive area of the circumcised penis, inevitably. So not only was the head of the penis less sensitive to touch, the most sensitive area of all was the area of the foreskin which is totally missing in the circumcised male, where the foreskin folds back over itself to form back under covering the glands. And that area was exquisitely sensitive. It's, say, more sensitive than any area on the circumcised penis, statistically. Very interesting. There were 5 areas on the foreskin of the penis that were more sensitive than any area on the circumcised penis. That's a rather startling conclusion. We emphasize that that doesn't say that there is not sexual pleasure in a circumcised male. That clearly isn't true. We're not even trying to read that into it. We're just saying there is a difference, that this is a very exquisitely sensitive part of the penile anatomy. Circumcision removed permanently the most sensitive part of the penis to touch.